Hello, this is part 2 of the Techniques of Magic class for the mysticmartias YouTube channel. Welcome and blessed be. It's wonderful to have you back. Today we're going to continue talking about magic, but we're going to get more into how to cast a spell and understanding some of the fundamentals of how spellcraft works. I hope that you find this informative, and if you do, please hit the like button or leave a comment down below. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. So let's get started. One of the first things that I was taught when I was learning to cast spells is a concept called the Witch's Pyramid. Now the Witch's Pyramid has 5 levels: to know, to will, to dare, to be silent, and to go. And basically these things explain all the different steps that you need in order to cast an effective spell. So the first step of the pyramid, or the base of the pyramid, is to know. The idea of you need to know what it is that you're doing. What are you planning to do? You need to be focused on exactly what you want your spell to achieve, and you need to be 100% clear. This is not something you think, this is something that you know. Now, this step of the pyramid is represented by air. Air is about thought and inspiration and beginnings. So this is a great place to start your first step into casting your spell. The second step of the Witch's Pyramid is to will. So you need to be able to put all of your passion, all of your energy, all of your focus into this spell. Is this something that you can put all of your energy into, that it drives your focus, that you are completely committed, heart, body, mind, and soul to this endeavor? You need to be able to feel that way and do that in order to properly will something to happen. And of course, with all that will and drive, this step is represented by fire. The third step of the pyramid is to dare, and it's represented by water. Now, you might be, to dare, what does that mean? So, when we talked a bit about the last step, we talked about will, and we talked about being wholly committed to what you're doing. Now, you need to be not just focused in your mind, but you need to be focused in your emotions. You need to allow the need for whatever it is that the spell is going to accomplish to literally become tangible. You have to allow yourself to need this thing, whatever it is. And people are afraid of need. There's lots of things that we want in life, but when you need something, when you fully recognize that if you don't have this, your life is going to be fundamentally worse, when you do that, it makes you vulnerable. It opens you up to the possibility of failure, and with the possibility of failure is fear. You have to open all of yourself up to this, and you need to fully commit, and that's where to dare comes in. And then there is to be silent, which is represented by earth. One of the things that I was taught when I was learning magic was that we don't go around bragging about the things we do. When you do magic, you cast the spell, you set it free, and then you don't talk about it, you don't share it with others. If anything, you try to put it out of your mind. You let it happen, and you have trust and faith in the gods that it will. And the final step of the pyramid is to go, and it is represented by the element of spirit. The first thing that to go means is that you actually take all these steps, you put all these things together, and then you go out and you let it happen. There has to be an actual drive to action. And this final step is meant to draw all the others together. Also, you need to go and you need to let go and put yourself in the hands of the gods or your ancestors or spirits or whoever it is that you may be drawing on to help you with your spell. By putting these 5 steps together and incorporating your knowledge, your will, your whole commitment or daring, and then putting it out there and letting it go and giving it to the gods and trusting them to let it come to you in whatever way that it comes, you are now ready to cast your first spell. So we've talked a lot about ethics and we've talked about the results of magic. So what are some safeguards that you can take to ensure that your spellcraft has the best effect and has no negative ramifications? How can you make sure that you're not doing harm to others? Well, one very basic and very easy way is to add to all of your spells, may this spell work for the greatest good of all, or may this spell harm none. You could add the line, these are the things that I would like to have in my life if you, the gods, see fit. By doing this, you allow your trust in the gods and the spirits and ancestors around you to guide you, and you accept that their wisdom can help guide you on your path. I do not recommend using ideas that I've found on the internet of trying to transfer responsibility for your spells to someone else. You can take those kind of actions and you can say, it is not me doing this, it is someone else, but you're calling on the gods. You're calling on your spirits and your ancestors. They know what you're doing. So safeguards like that are not a great idea. Magic can have various results. Whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, whether it be to a person, a spirit, or the physical world, it's going to have a similar corresponding reaction to you. One of the things about the craft is in order to embrace the energies that you're going to be using, you have to open yourself up to them. So when doing things that are negative, you have to be extraordinarily careful. However, when you open yourself up to positive energy and you put out positive energy, it becomes easier for you to then receive positive energy. This is a very practical reason why you should always try to aim your spells towards the positive. You, as a witch, need to be more aware of karma than a regular person. You are going out of your way to cause effects in the world, and as such, you are more responsible for your actions than a regular person. You are more mindful that your thoughts, your will, can have an impact on the world, and so therefore you bear a greater level of responsibility for your actions. Remember, when you use magic, you must be the judge of whether the actions and the spell that you are taking is right or wrong. Don't just base this on the laws of your country, but rather on universal laws of what is right and what is wrong. You will know. The laws of your country sometimes don't take into effect the craft and the things that we do. You need to. When magic gets released, it will take whatever is the path of least resistance for it. You may not get the job that you think that you wanted. I've done a spell to get a job, and I wanted one specific job, and then I got interviews for 2 jobs, and I was accepted for both. I ended up not taking the job that I had cast the spell for. Instead, I took the second job. because it seemed like it was a better fit. I did some divination and the gods seemed to agree. So, because magic takes the path of least resistance, don't name in your spell the exact form that your magic must take. If you need money so that you can go on a trip, for example, it doesn't matter how you get the money. What matters is that you go on that trip. Magic may help you find a part-time job. Magic may help you find money. Magic could cause someone to give you money. So don't limit it. But also, just because you don't feel like having a part-time job, your spell's been answered. If you don't want to work for the money that you're going to need for that job, that's not the fault of the spell. That's the fault in you. Maybe you don't really want that trip as much as you thought you did. It is your responsibility to do everything that you can to help your spell be effective. You must keep your eyes open. If you've done a spell for love, you need to get out of the house. You have to meet people. You have to go out of your comfort zone. The person who you are going to love is not going to come and knock on your door and say, "Hello, I just had this strange feeling I needed to show up at your house today." You need to open yourself up to the possibility and open your up to the situation where love could find you. In order for magic to work, you have to do your part. Know also that magic can have a profound psychological impact on people. This is a good place to mention that one of the most important tools that you have, as a matter of fact, the most important tool that you have in spellcraft, is your mind. You must have a focused mind. And so therefore, when you're doing spellcraft, it is best to avoid any form of mental impairment. So this is not the time to have a couple of glasses of wine before you do it. You want your mind strictly focused. You want your will and your intent to be clear, and you want to be able to see in your mind's eye the goal that you wish to achieve. If you have a few drinks, it's going to weaken your focus. Same as your focus is weakened when you drink and you drive, the same thing happens when you do magic and some other intoxicating substance. Try to make sure that your mind is clear and focused so that you get the exact result that you intend. Let's get into a little bit more detail. It's time to get into how to actually create a spell. So I have 10 questions that I generally use when I'm trying to think of how I want to create my spell and what it is that I want to do. Your first step is knowing that you have a need, that there's something that you want to accomplish. So the first question you're going to ask yourself is this a good thing to do? Is this something that is going to have a positive impact on my life? Simple enough. You go to the next question, and the next question is this something that is needful? Do I really need this in my life? Is this something that I'm totally invested in and that I totally want to achieve? Do I need this? The third question I would ask myself is, who will this affect? Consider everything that this could affect, whether it be other people, animals, the environment. Try to think consciously of everybody and everything that your spell could impact. It will allow you to make a more informed choice and possibly make a better choice or to custom tailor your spell towards your specific situation and the people, animals, and the environment involved. Next question is your state of mind clear? Are you free of bias? Are you grounded? Are you centered? Or are you extremely angry about a situation or extremely sad about a situation? Or are you overly joyful about a situation? It doesn't really matter where your extreme emotions are coming from. Just make sure that you are making your decisions for your spell based on your true will and not the expediency of the moment and the passion that you feel right this second. The fifth question is, have you looked at all the facts regarding this situation fairly? Have you taken the time to be fair and equitable and look at it from your point of view, from the other people's point of view, from all the different situations? 6 is, does it affect anyone else's free will? This starts getting into the realm of ethics, and ethics are very important. For the most part, you want to avoid anything that is going to impact anybody else's choice. You're not trying to make somebody else do something. You're trying to bring something positive into your life. You're not looking to destroy somebody. You're not looking to harm somebody. You're not looking to take away somebody's free choice. Instead, you're just trying to get the thing that you need. The 7th question is, does it affect anyone's path in life? Are you affecting someone else's karma? And this counts for you too. Is there a lesson that you need to learn that you're just not learning? Are you seeing patterns that come over and over and over again in your life and you keep fighting against it? Chances are, if it's something like that, there could be a karmic lesson that you're just not learning, and you need to spend some time with that. Anytime that you find that the same kind of problem presents itself again and again in your life, especially if the situation gets worse and worse, think of it as the gods as smacking you on the back of the head and trying to get your attention so that you'll learn something. And that smack keeps getting harder each time so that you'll actually learn it. Number 8, and this one could be a little bit hard. Does your spell affect the natural order of things? Are you doing a spell to help somebody stay alive who their time has come? This is a really tough thing. You could have a member of your family or somebody who you're friends with or close with who has terminal cancer, and their time is here and it is now. And you need to tailor your spell taking that into account. For example, instead of doing a spell to give them the energy to defeat the illness, give them the spell so that they have the energy to proceed to where they should be. That the energy will either help ease their passing and help them cross over, or if it is not their time, that energy will go towards healing them and making them stronger and healthier. Allow the magic and your trust in the gods to guide you in a situation like this. Number 9, and this is a big one, is anyone in danger right now? Is there an issue? For example, I can think of a situation where if I was on the street and I was with my wife and she got hit by a car, I would do a spell right there and then to keep her alive and healthy until the paramedics came and she could get help. And I would quickly disregard all the other parts of this, and I would go straight to, there's somebody in danger right now, and my magic is designed to help them. If you go and you look through all the other questions, you'll find very quickly that when someone's in danger, it's going to answer yes to a whole bunch of those boxes. You want to get somebody out of immediate danger. Number 10 is, have you given thought to the ethical ramifications of what you're doing, of how it could affect the outside world, people, not just you? Just give a moment's thought to whether what you're doing is right or wrong. Does it leave a bad taste in your mouth? Do you have the impression that maybe what you're planning to do isn't for the benefit, isn't for the good of all? If it's not for the good of all, find a way to change your spell. For example, I used to have a coworker, and we did not get along in any way, shape, or form. This lady drove me crazy. And so I cast a spell that she would find happiness far away from me. Instead of cursing her so she would lose her job or looking at things in a negative way, I instead decided that I would help her find exactly what she wanted in life, but nowhere close to me. She got offered a promotion at another company, and she got this job. She was ecstatically happy to be leaving. I was ecstatically happy she was leaving. Everybody was happy. And so I turned something that could have been seen as a negative, where I just want her gone, fire her, instead to I want her to find something better somewhere else. There is almost always a way to make whatever it is you want have a positive impact on the world. And remember, if you open yourself up to positivity, more positivity can come back through you. If you open yourself up to negativity, more negativity can come through to you. So the positive path is beneficial to you, and it's beneficial to all the people who your magic may touch. So let's get a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of actually casting a spell. So I said in the beginning that the first thing you have to do is have an idea of what it is that you're trying to do. You have to understand that when you're doing this, precision is the key. You want to be able to visualize precisely what it is that you're trying to do. You don't want any confusion. You want absolute clarity so that when you can visualize your spell taking effect, you can visualize it clearly in your own mind. Take some time and decide what it is exactly that you want to have happen with your spell. Not what you think you want, what you know must happen. This is in the idea of the to know part of the witch's pyramid. You must know precisely what it is you want to happen, not what you think you want to happen. Take some time, meditate on it, and decide what it is that you truly want. Then take some time and think about the ethical ramifications of what you're doing. All those questions about, is this a positive thing? Can it harm anybody? Go through the questions. So after that, and after you've gone through the questions, it's time to take some time to actually plan out the spell. And I can't say that planning and plan. The more planning you do, the better off you're going to be. The more time and effort you put into any spell is going to add energy to your spell before you even cast it. Think of it as a snowball rolling down a hill. Now, when you get your spell going and you're casting the spell, it's a lot easier to start with a snowball that's this big than a snowball that's that big. You have less pushing up the hill. The way I like to look at it is planning is when you're rolling the ball down the hill, and when you're casting the spell, you're pushing the ball up the hill. You're going to have to generate the energy. You're going to have to put all that into it. So the time and effort you can take beforehand gets you off to a great start when you're actually going to start casting the spell. When you're creating an enchantment, when you're just thinking of what you want, write down precisely what it is. Go back to step number 1 and think of, okay, so I've defined exactly what I want. I've been very precise. I've created a clear visualization in my mind, but write it down. Write down some notes. If you want to create a little enchantment, something to speak to the gods, write that down. Don't just do that off the top of your head. especially when you're first getting started in spellcraft. Take some time, jot it down. The gods don't mind if you read from notes. They really, really don't. So, set a mood, dim the lights, cast a circle, light some candles, get yourself into the mode. Perhaps you feel you're most energetic when it's the full moon, so wait till the next full moon. Or maybe what you're doing you don't want anybody to know about, you don't like people to know that you're a witch or something along those lines. Maybe you want to do it in the dark of the moon. Maybe you're going to talk to Artemis and she's going to help you hunt something down or find something. So you're going to do it when it's just, the moon is just a sliver so that her bow is present in the sky. However you want to do it, whatever makes you feel witchy and powerful and lets you reach out and touch the energy around you, create that mood. I love lighting candles all around the room, dimming the lights, and full moon magic for me. I love it. So often I'll wait, if I'm doing something really important, till the full moon. Or I'll know a full moon's coming. I'm like, what am I going to do this month? Because I'm excited to do something for the full moon. And there's almost always something that you can cast a spell to help your life with. If you are at all sensitive to astronomical effects, then you need to take the planets into account, particularly Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde pretty often, and it can be a really bad time for communication or anything that has to do with learning. For me, you might want to keep in mind when Mercury goes retrograde. This one I really like. It's kind of what differentiates Wiccans from other occult groups like ceremonialists where they command. I think it's a lot better to ask than to demand. Ask the elements to help you. Call on your ancestors and ask for their help. Ask the gods to lend you aid. All of these spirits have been with you since the beginning of your life. Ancestors, a grandmother who may have held you in her arms and then passed to the other side, still wants to hold you in her arms. These spirits have been with you from the beginning. Ask for their help. Do not say, I, so-and-so, priest and witch, do command thee to fulfill this task. Instead, ask for their help. Ask for their guidance. Say, please do this, and do this only if it harms no one or if it is a benefit to me. By asking, you get to take in their wisdom and have them, they may tweak your spell a little bit and add a little energy more than you thought, especially if they think that what you're doing is particularly beneficial. And you would know that if you did divination beforehand. So, okay, so we've defined what we're going to do. We've determined that it's ethical. We've planned, everything's set up, everything's written down. So let's go. We're going to cast this spell. Now, one thing that you want to do when you're casting a spell is you don't want to waste the energy that you're creating. You've decided you're going to cast a spell for whatever purpose. I highly recommend casting a magical circle. For Wiccans, generally, for the most part, we're aware of how to cast magical circles. So you cast a magical circle. Call the elements. You call the gods. You call your ancestors. You call your higher self. But you call these spirits into your circle. And you tell them, you say, okay guys, this is what we're doing tonight. And speak to them. They know you. So sit in your circle and just sort of go over your list of what it is that you're going to do. Think about it as going over your spell. one last time before you perform it and ask the gods and the elements and your ancestors and your higher self, everybody who's involved, to be here and to help this spell happen. And then once you're there, raise the energy, ask them for their help, and we'll talk a little bit more about raising energy later. And then release the spell into the world. And then say farewell, close your circle, and walk away. Let it go. Let the magic go out into the world and let it have its effect. So, I said a little while ago we'd talk about raising energy. So, number one, why do we raise energy? Well, things don't just happen. We use energy every day for all of the things that we do. We may not realize, but when we eat, we take in energy. When we breathe, we take in energy. And we use that energy to go about our daily lives. So anything, an object at rest tends to stay at rest unless some energy, some will, something acts against it. It will stay as it is. So you need to have your focused will, but you also need to have energy to get results. A focused will plus energy equals results. It can be sent directly to a person. For example, if somebody's suffering from depression and you're trying to send them positive energy, probably very useful if you're stuck in the middle of COVID-19 and you can't get out. A little bit of friendly energy sent to somebody make them feel a little bit more loved in their everyday life. There's all sorts of things. People do healing. Reiki is a great example of sending energy directly into a person. And if you're doing working that is involving the gods, you could send the energy to the gods as an offering. For example, I love to drum, and in a ritual setting, I will sometimes drum, and I will just send that energy off to the gods as part of my love for them. So, where does energy come from? The number one general rule when casting spells is don't let all of the energy come from you. If you do, you're going to be left drained, and the amount of energy that you have is limited. When I first started craft, somebody described it to me this way. Now, you may have a lot of energy. Let's say, for example, that you're the witchiest person I've ever met, and you have a lot of energy, and you can use it and focus it. Well, that's great. But, so let's say if you were going to measure my energy, that I have a cup of water, and the water is my energy. Well, maybe you're the witchiest person I've ever met, and you have a bucket of water. Maybe you have a bathtub of water. That's great. But when I call on the elements, when I call on the gods, now I have an ocean. I have the limitless energy of the gods, of the elements, of my ancestors, of all the things around me. And so when I call on the energies of the universe to lend aid to my spell and to give it energy, I have that limitless, bottomless ocean to call on. So your own energy is meant to be the thing that directs the ocean. Don't think of yourself as powering your spell. Think of yourself as directing the vast energies the vast forces of the universe that you are calling on to make your spell happen. Instead, your energies are just to sort of tame this wild power and to channel it towards your goal. One of the great ways for me to raise energy is chanting. Chanting, you get everybody together, they sing the same thing, and while they're singing, hopefully you've picked a chant that has at least a little something to do with what it is that you're trying to do. And everybody sings together, and in that one voice you create group mind, and then you start bringing their focused wills together to help channel the energy around them and focus it into whatever it is that you're doing. Dancing can do the same thing. If everybody holds hands and starts dancing around the circle. And when we say dancing, we're not talking about dancing at a club. We're talking about spiral dances, or even just everybody holding hands, and you raise and lower your hands to the chant to raise energy, but to get you focused. You can do focused breathing techniques or mantras or something like that. There are some people who incorporate sexual energy into magic. One of the great uses and ways to raise energy is fire. So a candle can be for your own personal workings, and maybe if you're getting together with a group of people, a cauldron is, in the center of your circle where you're all focusing on, that cauldron, especially if you want to burn things in the fire that are specific for your magical working. And on a side note, we have a cauldron, but you can also use a large fire resistant bowl or something along those lines. Just be very careful that you're not creating too much smoke. I can't tell you how many times we've set off a smoke alarm. I now take down my smoke alarm and put it in a Ziploc bag to avoid it going off, because I've even taken it before and put it down on the couch and had it go off because the smoke from our incense filled up the room so much it got down all the way to the level of the seat of the cushions of the couch. A lot of people will use repeated motion or friction. So like if you're chanting and you go back and forth like this, and you're creating energy like that, it gets you in there. So you're raising all this energy, you're focusing, the energy's around you, it's spiraling around you, you've got the elemental energy, you've got the gods up above and down below, and they're all around you, and you're focused, and you're doing your thing, and maybe you're doing some chanting and breathing, you got a fire in the middle, and you're doing the repeated motion, rocking, and so things are gonna get to the edge of being almost out of control. The energy should build until you're almost gonna lose your ability to hold on to it. And at that moment of crescendo, and it needs to be before you get tired from dancing, before you run out of breath and you can't sing anymore. And keep this in mind. If you're doing it with a group of people, it has to be before the weakest of you gets tired or the weakest of you runs out of breath, because you want everybody to peak at the same time. So keep in mind that you can't maintain singing at maximum volume and speed for more than about 15 to 20 seconds. So start slow and let it build up slowly. One of my favorite chants for raising energy is the mill wheel. And when I start it, it's air, breathe, air, blow, make the wheel of magic go. work the wish for which we pray. Io Dio ahaye, Io Dio ahaye. Now, you can do that, and you need to know how many times you're going to repeat the chant. So you can't, if you're going to do it once, you know that by the time you get to the end, you're going to be yelling at the top of your voice. You're going to be singing it absolutely as fast as you can. But if you're going to do the chant 3 times, and it's a long chant because all the elements are involved in it, then you need to build up really, really slowly. And there's nothing wrong with that. But do not build up too fast and you get 1.5 ways through it and you start running out of breath. And this is something that you're not going to do right necessarily the first time you do it. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay. You're still going to raise energy. But if you can get that moment of crescendo, that moment of highest energy to come at the right time, you can really feel that energy go into your spell and empower it. So when we do spells, you should be aware of adding energy to it. You should be aware that energy is being put into the spell by the planning, that getting all of you together, but there should be a point in your spell where you begin directing energy towards your goal. And make sure that it's clear in your instructions. Write it down. So you say, okay, guys, we've focused it. Maybe you did a guided meditation to get everybody sort of in the right frame of mind. But now it's time to raise energy. So very often, if I'm with a group of people, it'll be like, okay, now everybody, if we could all please stand and join hands, and we're going to raise energy. I want everybody to focus on the crystal that we're charging or the candle that we're creating. And I want you to focus positive energy and positive intent. And like if it was looking for people to, like, for example, we were talking earlier, to feel some love during COVID-19 when the candle's lit. So maybe you have a nice pink candle, and everybody is going to focus love and happiness and joy and how much we all care about each other into this candle. And if it's for a specific person, maybe somebody who, because of COVID-19, cannot get together with your coven, maybe you could focus all your love and care for them and how much you wish that they were there with you. And then you can send them the candle and they can burn that themselves. It'd be a lovely thing to do for a coven member who maybe is at high risk and can't get together. One of the things to keep in mind when you're raising energy is you have to have some way to contain it. Now, I love to use magical circles. So I use magical circles. I cast a circle, I call in the quarters, I call the Lord and Lady, or different deities who might be beneficial to me, or ancestors who I might want help from. But I have my circle. And so when I raise the energy, I begin filling my circle with energy. And then I call on it. And at that moment of crescendo, because the energy we've been raising, it's contained in the circle. And often it begins spiraling in the center. Put whatever it is that you want the energy into in the center. And if, for example, you don't have an object that you're doing, then put something that will help you focus on your intent in the center of the altar. So if you're sending healing energy out to Bob, for example, you could have a picture of Bob on your altar. And then just see the energy swirling around and building and going and building and going. And then you can send it off through the astral to Bob, and hopefully he'll be healed. But you have to have some way to contain the energy Otherwise, you can have the energy of the moment, but you can't have the built-up energy that would otherwise diffuse away. And yes, if you have a coven getting together and they're all chanting, they're raising energy in that moment and it's swirling around, but you can get more energy by having a container. So I highly recommend circles or some other way of containing the energy. You could even create like a little bubble in the center of your altar with the object that you're putting it in it, and you just keep sending energy into the bubble and it can't escape. Or you can just imagine that the object itself is a container for energy and create that thought form, and then as you're raising the energy, send the energy into it. But one way or the other, you really need to have in your mind, how are you going to contain the energy as part of your spell? Well, thank you very much for taking this time to learn a little something about spellcraft and a little something about how magic works. We're going to continue with this series, and we're going to look at different actual magical techniques that you could use in your spells. So I really look forward to speaking to you again, and I would really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe. That would really help me out, and it would help YouTube know that you value content like this. And if you subscribe, you'll see more content from me as it comes out. I hope that you all have wonderful spells, and I wish you good luck in your spell casting. Farewell, and blessed be.